In a sunlit kingdom far beyond the hills and rivers, there stood a magnificent castle whose golden towers shimmered like fire in the morning sky. The kingdom was prosperous and peaceful, and at its heart lived a king with his youngest daughter, a princess so beautiful that even the sun seemed to pause and glow a little brighter whenever it touched her face. She was gentle and sweet in many ways, but like many youngest children, raised in comfort, she had grown a little spoiled over the years. No one ever denied her wishes, and every toy she desired was placed into her hands before she finished asking. Among her many treasures, the princess's favorite was a heavy golden ball, polished to perfection, shining like a tiny captured sun. She carried it everywhere. On warm afternoons, she wandered into the palace gardens, whose trees whispered in the breeze and whose flowers danced beneath the sky. Her favorite place of all was a quiet corner near a great ancient tree beside a deep, still pond. There she would sit for hours, tossing her golden ball high into the air, laughing with delight each time she caught it gracefully. One afternoon, as the sunlight sparkled on her golden toy, she decided to throw it higher than she ever had before. The ball soared upward, flashing like a bright streak in the sky. As it fell back toward her, her fingers missed their mark. The ball slipped through them, landed softly on the grass, and rolled, slowly at first, then faster and faster, straight toward the pond. Before she could catch it, it reached the water's edge and dropped in with a small, heartbreaking plop. The pond swallowed it whole. The princess ran to the water's edge and peered in, but the surface was dark and still. Her beautiful ball had vanished. Panic rose in her chest, followed by a flood of tears. She sat on the grass, covered her face with her hands, and began to weep loudly. As her sobs echoed across the garden, a gentle voice drifted up from the water. "Princess, why are you crying so sadly?" Startled, she looked around. At first she saw nothing, but then a small green head emerged from the pond. A frog, with big round eyes and a wide, patient mouth. The princess froze. A frog was speaking to her. The frog blinked and repeated softly, "Why do you cry?" The princess wiped her tears and answered, "My golden ball! It fell into the pond. I'll never get it back." The frog tilted his head thoughtfully. "If it is only your ball, I can help you. I can dive down and bring it back." Hope lit her face instantly. "Oh, could you? Please bring it back." The frog nodded, but his voice turned serious. "I will, but you must promise me something in return." The princess quickly offered jewels, pearls, even her crown, but the frog shook his head. "He want none of your treasures," he said. "Promise instead that you will be my friend. Promise that you will let me sit beside you, eat from your golden plate, drink from your golden cup, and sleep on your soft silk pillow." The princess nearly recoiled in disgust. A frog? Sit beside her, eat from her plate, sleep on her pillow? The very thought made her stomach twist. But she wanted her ball back more than anything, so she nodded eagerly and said, Yes, I promise everything." With that, the frog gave a long, searching gaze, then dove into the dark pond. After a few moments, the water bubbled, and he rose triumphantly, the golden ball in his mouth. The princess nearly squealed with joy. She snatched the ball, thanked him quickly, and ran back to the castle as fast as she could, leaving the frog calling behind her, "Princess, wait, what about your promise?" But she did not stop. She did not look back. She hurried inside and slammed the door shut. The frog, left alone beside the pond, sighed deeply. Then, with slow, determined hops, he began making his way toward the castle. That evening, as the king and his daughter dined in the grand hall, the princess tried to forget everything that had happened. But suddenly, tap, 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 a small knocking sounded at the castle door. She froze, dread tightening her chest. When her father asked what the sound was, she insisted it was nothing, just the wind. But again the knocking came, louder this time, followed by a familiar voice calling, "Princess, open the door! You made me a promise!" The king's expression sharpened. "Go and see who is calling for you." Nervous and trembling, the princess went to the door and opened it just a crack. There, looking up patiently, was the frog. She gasped and immediately slammed the door shut, her heart pounding, but when her father demanded an explanation, she confessed the entire story, from the lost ball to the promise she had made and the promise she had broken. The king listened quietly, but when she finished, he said firmly, "My daughter, a promise is sacred. If you have given your word, you must keep it. Go, open the door and welcome him." Reluctant but obedient, the princess did as she was told. The frog hopped into the hall and followed her hop by hop to the dining table, where he asked her to lift him up. She did, though every part of her wished she hadn't. He then asked her to move her plate closer that he might share her meal. And she obeyed again, though her appetite had vanished completely. After he finished eating, the frog announced softly, "I am tired. Please take me to your chamber and place me on your silk pillow so that I may rest." This was too much for the princess. Her face flushed with anger and disgust, but the king's stern gaze reminded her of her promise. She picked up the frog, carried him up the staircase, and brought him into her room. But once there, her patience finally snapped. She hurled him against the stone wall and cried, "Leave me alone!" The frog hit the wall hard and collapsed onto the floor. The princess gasped in horror, but suddenly regretted her outburst. But before she could move, a brilliant white light burst from the frog's small body. The room glowed brighter than the sun, forcing her to shield her eyes. When the light faded, she looked again, and the frog was gone. Standing in his place was a tall, handsome young prince with kind eyes and a warm smile. Astonished, the princess could barely breathe. The prince bowed and explained that a wicked witch had cursed him long ago, turning him into a frog until the princess kept her promise fully and completely. The princess blushed with shame and whispered an apology for her cruelty, but the prince only smiled gently. "All is forgiven," he said. "Your promise has set me free." The next morning, the king was overjoyed to meet the prince. He gave the young couple his blessing, and the prince asked the princess to return with him to his kingdom. Having learned an important lesson about honesty, kindness, and keeping one's word, even when it is difficult, the princess accepted with grace. They traveled together to the prince's kingdom, where they were soon married in a celebration filled with joy and music. And though the princess still loved her golden ball, she learned to treasure something far greater, the promises she made and the love she found. And so, they lived happily ever after. If this magical tale warmed your heart or brought a smile to your evening, please like, share, and subscribe for more enchanting bedtime stories. Join the world of Nini Nights, where every week brings a new dream, a new adventure, and a little more magic for your heart.